All right, software. So this is your video on cosine. It's going to be very quick because cosine not super different than sine. Um, and to start us off, our goal today is to try and create circular motion. And to figure out circular motion, we first need to think about a circle and how things in a circle are changing. So if I were to go around this circle and I pay attention only to the x value, so I'm only looking at this bottom axis, I see that I start at -5 on the x, and as I start to go around the circle, I'm becoming closer to being positive. So as I move up, I get to -3, I get to 0, I get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, until I'm at 5. And if I keep going around the circle, I see myself going back towards the negative side. So I go from 5 just on the x-axis back towards 0. I'm at -2 right now. I go back to -5. So we see this oscillation happening. It's going between -5 and 5. It's never going higher or lower. But the x is changing and the y is changing, because if I work my way around the circle looking at the y-axis now, I'm going to see the same thing. I see that as I start going down, it becomes more and more negative until I get to -5 on the y. And then as I start going up, I start getting more and more positive until I work my way back to the 5. So what needs to happen in order to create this circular motion is I need two oscillating variables. So this is where we are going to introduce cosine. Cosine is a trigonometric function, very much like sine. It is one of those ratios that exists in a right triangle, and this one takes a look at an angle, and it uses that to calculate the ratio between the adjacent side and the hypotenuse of the right triangle. If you are in geometry, or if you took geometry last year, you have probably talked about this. If you are not in geometry yet, this is something that will come up for you. And very much like sine, we are going to learn that cosine, tangent's the third ratio. We are going to learn that cosine also oscillates between -1 and 1. So we see on the graph that we see that wave pattern that we're familiar with. What we need to understand is this oscillates at a slightly different rate than what sine does. So even though it's going between the same two numbers, it's behaving a little bit differently. And this is why we start to care about cosine when we have sine. When we use those two things together, we can get them to produce a circular motion. So we can use the cosine values to, for example, provide the x coordinates and the sine value to provide the y coordinates. Now, what you guys are going to be doing today is going to look a little different than things we've done before. You're going to be working in a fully built out chunk of code. So it already does something. What your job is going to be is to read through that code and identify exactly what it's doing, and also change some things in that code to get different results. And that's what you're going to see linked in the Google Classroom. If you have any questions, please reach out, but this code is yours to play with. If anything breaks at any point in time, just come back to this link and you can start with a fresh copy. Good luck.